Today we're tackling a Hackthebox easy web challenge called Spellbound Servants. In this white box challenge, we're going to dive into the code to find out all about the vulnerable cookie by decoding it, unpickling it, and then using a remote code execution to grab that flag. And if you're new here, I'm Chris Alupulu, a cyber enthusiast who loves CTF challenges, exploring vulnerabilities, and just all things hacking. So without further ado, let's dive right in and check this web challenge out. So we've started this machine up, and you can see here it is online, and I can terminate it, but I'm not going to. And it provided us with an IP address with a port number. And the other thing it provides us is some download files. This is a white box challenge, meaning we will have some files that we can go through to see how it looks like on the back end. Now, I've already downloaded it, but the other important thing here is there is a zip password to this file. So I have the password here, Hackthebox, and I've already downloaded it in my terminal. I'm actually going to open up a new window, and I'm going to cd into the downloads and ls. And you can see here the Spellbound Servants.zip has been downloaded from the challenge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move this into the Hackthebox challenges for Spellbound. Now I've moved it in there. I'm going to clear it, exit, and here we are. We are in the home Kali Hackthebox challenges Spellbound directory, and I can ls, and there we go. We can see the Spellbound Servants.zip is in my directory. So I'm going to clear it, and I can unzip it like this, and it's going to ask us for the password, right? Hackthebox, and there we go. So we have it unzipped now. Now the nmap scan is something I've already done, so I'm going to remove that so I can show you from the beginning. But you're going to see here it is a Docker instance that if you want to run this, you can. But what I like typically doing is I just like going through the machine and seeing if I can solve it without actually trying to run the Docker image first. Now they do provide a flag, and it looks like here, if I cat flag.txt, it's going to show us what that flag is. This is not the actual flag. This is just a fake flag, kind of indicating what you are looking for on that target IP address. So let's go ahead and clear it, and let's see the challenge folder. And here we go. So this is the application. We can cd into the application. We can take a look at the application. In this case, it looks like it is a Python application. But before we get ahead of ourselves, I don't want to dive into the code first. I actually want to do an nmap scan. And remember, on our IP address here, we were given an IP address and we were given a specific port. This is our only target, nothing outside of this. So we should not be spraying nmap scans outside of this one port. So here is the nmap scan that I have decided to go with, and I'll show you on the screen what all this indicates, but I'm essentially using the P flag to target that one specific port and using these flags and saving it in the nmap scan. So I'm going to run that, and again, I'll show you on the screen what this is all about. But we could also open up a new window, and we can go cd back into the challenges Spellbound, and let's take a look. So cd into the challenge, ls, cd into application. All right, let's take a look. I could even tree to see exactly what's going on in here. We're getting some CSS files, some images, some JavaScript. Okay, we have some template files. It looks like there is a login and a registration HTML. Then there's a utility Python. All right, very interesting. So let's clear, let's go into the static and see what's going on here. Maybe ls. Let's take a look at the script.js. Okay, so it looks like this is some type of login. Here we go. Yes, fetch API login. It is an API, right? It's using JSON, username, password, targeting the home. Okay, before we get ahead of ourselves, the nmap is running. It's doing its thing, but let's go ahead. And since we know it's JavaScript, we know it has a login. It's a website, right? It's a web app. So we're doing a web challenge right now. So let's go ahead and open up Burp Suite Community Edition. Completely fine. It will take care of everything. Here we go. Let's go in proxy and we will turn on proxy. Okay. And then from here, let's go ahead and open up. And there goes Firefox. Mozilla is just sending me all its plugin updates. Let's copy this IP address again. Push services Mozilla. Great. Awesome. Okay. Good job, Mozilla. All right. Let's go and check this IP address. So here is our Burp Suite request. We have set up the proxy. Burp Suite is intercepting the proxy from our browser, going into Burp Suite. So we can take a look at exactly what's going to be sent to that web app server on that IP address at that specific port. So here it is. We're doing a GET request for the home page, and it's just very simple. Here is our user agent. Here's our host name, and we're keeping the connection alive. This is all pretty basic stuff. Nothing to worry about there. I'm going to forward it, and it looks like it did another GET request, and it's sourcing some type of weights, some type of fonts for a CSS. So it's given us CSS fonts. We can go ahead and forward that. That's coming from Google. So they're sourcing fonts from Google, and then they're sending it to us. So let's take a look. Okay, so here it is. Spellbound Servants looks like a very simple login page. First thing that I like doing is I always go to the view page source. I don't know what it is about view page source, but usually I like going there just to see exactly if there's any easy wins in the page source. So let's go ahead and take a look. And if you're unfamiliar with this syntax or HTML, it's a good time to start diving into it to see exactly what a head body is, what the body is, so forth and so on, what are divs, and what are scripts. But not too important to dive too deep, but just understanding this syntax to building a website is will help you in the long run. All right, so here is the title. Let's take a look. So it's referencing some style sheets, CSS style sheets. Those are just basic. Nothing can really be in there that's going to be potential attack vector for us. But we see here there is a register page, and that's built out. So that's awesome. There is a login click button and some JavaScript. Okay. So script.js, let's take a look at the script.js. And here we go. Okay. So this is actually the logic, right? The static JS script.js. So this is exactly what we were looking at when we cat that. So here it is. Exact same thing. All right. So password, let username, password, validation. Okay. All right. Status 200. Okay. Very cool. So let's go ahead and try just some simple login like admin password and see what that does. And that's going to send us a request on Burp Suite in a JSON. Here's the username, admin. Here's the password, and it is doing a post request to an API endpoint for the login. All right, so let's forward that. Actually, let's right click and send that to repeater. And what I'm doing when I'm right clicking and sending to repeater is having the ability to continuously send this over and over and over again. So that is what repeater is all about. So I want to send this, here we go. I get a status response of 403 forbidden, invalid credentials. And I can change this around. I can put, instead of username admin, put username admin1, send that forbidden. I can even start enumerating it if I wanted to with intruder, meaning do I want to go from 1 to 1,000,000? I can, but we're not going to do that. So let's take a look. One important aspect here is I'm seeing a Python 3.11.8. So now we know this is built on Python, and that is very cool. So let's go take a look at the Nmap scan, and let's see if we can verify that. So here is the Nmap scan for that port that we just ran under. And we're getting the exact same thing here. So here is the server. And we're getting a bunch of information. It looks like just the HTML from the home. We're getting the same things. But the other thing I'm noticing here is it's actually showing us what it allows. It allows us to do post requests. It allows us to do options. It allows us to do a get and a head. So that's really interesting. That might be an attack vector that we need to look at to see if we can exploit this login mechanic or not. And then going down, it looks like just a bunch of mess. I don't want to bother with it, but that is that. Okay, let's clear it, and we'll get out of this. So we're not able to log in with those credentials. That sucks. But let's go back to the website. And let's fingerprint to see, is there an admin account or not? And here we go. Burp Suite sent us a get request to the register. So it's intercepting this, and we're just going to forward it because there's nothing really we can do to add to it. And again, coming back from Google, Google's like, here are the fonts. Okay. Let's take a look. So I'm assuming this is the register page. Okay, this is the register page. So let's register as admin. And the reason why I like using the admin is because I want to see, is there an admin account created on this on the back end that we can potentially brute force or enumerate or whatever, right? So I usually like doing admin, or if we have the credentials of some user, in this case, if it's like at the bottom, it says built by Chris, maybe I'll try Chris to register as Chris and see if that works or not. But in this case, let's go with admin. I'm going to register admin with password. And here we go. So it is doing a post request to the API endpoint register. And here is the IP address from the Hackthebox, right, for that specific port. And here is the JSON data, the content type application JSON. And here is the data, the username admin, the password. So we're going to go ahead and forward that. And it looks like user registered. Please log in. So we can go back to the home page and let's take a look. Can we log in? Let's see. So it is doing that exact same request, a post request. Okay, and it looks like something else came back. Get request for the home page. But another interesting piece of element here is we're getting a cookie, and that makes sense, right? We're logging in, we're authenticating with this web app, and now that web app is sending us an authentication cookie, and we can go ahead and copy this entire thing, put it in our note clip. But what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to copy this because I want to take a look at what is this. And the other thing I want to do is send this to repeater just so I can have it on hand. I'm going to forward it. And here it comes back. Google, good old Google. Some nice fonts. Okay. Okay, it's doing some more fonts. All right, let's take a look. So here is the website. Happy Ghost. Okay, very cool. So we can probably add this to cart or something, or add to favorites. Okay, so it looks like this is some type of JavaScript slider, I'm assuming. I don't know how built out this is, but trying to click around, trying to see, is there anything that that will actually trigger Burp Suite, because Burp Suite is on intercept. If there's anything that I'm doing that needs to be targeting the server, Burp Suite's going to start intercepting it. And since we're not getting anything intercepted by Burp Suite, that means this is all on my end, right? On my browser. It's just being updated on the DOM on my side of it. So I'm not really seeing anything. Okay. So let's go back into Burp Suite. Let's take a look. So I did copy this. What is this exactly? So we're seeing this. That's a good indication for something. Let's echo it. And then try to do a base 64 decode. Okay, so we did. So it is base 64. So we're getting back something. We're getting back a username admin period. So that's very interesting. So let's go. I'm assuming if we make change to that, that probably wouldn't do anything, but we do need to go into now the files and take a look at what is the Python server doing on the back end exactly with this cookie, because this cookie is an indication. I'm not really seeing anything else here. Maybe I missed something. Let's take a look at the view page source and see if I did miss anything. I haven't checked that out. So we're doing some cloudflare.com. Okay, it's referencing some style sheets, nothing really important. Here are some static images. Okay, so we know there is a static folder, there is an image folder, and this is where all the PNG files are stored. Very cool. Let's take a look down some more. Okay, checkboxes. Nothing really, it's all just CSS, HTML. Okay, divs. All right. I'm not really seeing anything. 2_ card. Okay. All right, let's keep going through. Don't want to tunnel too deeply on this. There is an index.js and there is a slider.js. I'm assuming the slider.js is just the logic behind the actual motion between the pictures. Let's take a look at the index.js. In this case, we're getting a 404 not found for the static.js index. Okay, interesting. So let's take a look then. We're going to close these out and let's take a look into our files. So here we go. Let's take a look around. What else is there? So let's clear it. We'll CD back into static. We know there isn't probably anything in images or CSS. I don't want to tunnel too badly on that. But if we don't find anything, we can come back to that. Let's cat database.py, see what's going on here. Okay, it's doing, it's imported base 64, so that makes sense. That's kind of like what we saw with our cookie, and it is MySQL database. Okay, and it's pickling it. So it's built on Flask and it's using MySQL and it's importing MySQL. So that's very interesting. Let's take a look here. Here is the login user database, the username and password. And here is the SQL query for the select user from users where username. Okay. All right. True. If user, okay, pickled data, base 64 encode pickle dumps users and then returns back the data in ASCII. Okay, false. And then it registers it also. Interesting. All right. So let's take a look. Let's go back and clear this and let's start figuring out, since we saw pickled, right? And we're seeing base 64 encode, and we're seeing the logic for the registered users and the login user. And it looks like it's base 64 in it and encoding it. I'm assuming then when we did echo, let's see if I can find it. When we did echo this, I'm assuming then this is being pickled on the back end. So let's go ahead and verify this. Before I do that, I am in the application for the challenge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to CD into the Spellbound folder. And let's go ahead and echo that one more time so we have it. So let's go and try to see if we can unpickle this or not. If we can unpickle it, then that must mean we are on the right direction for this. So let's go ahead, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to echo it and actually pipe the binary data into the data.pickle file. So it is being base64 decoded, and then the binary data is being injected into the data.pickle file. So I'm going to do that. And then from here, I'm going to nano unpickle.py. We're going to run a Python script, and we're going to unpickle it and see if that works. So let's go ahead and do that. And here we go. Here is the code that I've written. It is importing pickle, and it is taking the data that we put. It is the binary data, right? The pickle file, and it is going to take it, unpickle it, and load it onto the screen. So I'm going to Control O to save it, exit out. And if we cat the pickle file, we see it is a binary data. If we file pickle it, we can see, okay, it is some type of data. So it is binary data. We're not getting back what we echoed when we did that. But let's go ahead now and run that Python 3 and see what happens. What are we going to get out of it? In this case, it looks like we are getting back that information, the username and the admin. And remember, when we first registered our account, we named it admin. So really, admin is not really any relevance. There is no relevance to the admin name here, but it is nice to know now that the cookie that is being supplied to us by the Python server is being pickled and then being base64'd and being thrown onto the cookie that way. So we know now where our attack vector is. So let's go ahead and move on to the next step and figure out where we can go from there. Before we do any of that though, let's continue back into the folders, and we checked out static. Let's check out blueprints, see what's going on in there. And here we go. We got a cat routes. So that is interesting. So let's take a look at this one. And okay, so it's porting application database. It's porting everything. So it is on Flask. And here is the API and the web requests. Okay. And we're seeing the get and post requests for the register. That makes sense. For the home, for the login, that all makes sense. Let's continue down and see. Okay, JSON request, invalid JSON. So we do need to be specific on that. We can't manipulate that. All right, logged in successful. And then the user is being thrown into the database. Very cool. Okay. All right, let's see. Is there anything else that we can take a look at that we missed? We didn't look in the templates. Actually, yeah. Okay, the templates is the HTML stuff. We didn't look at util. So let's take a look at the utility. Okay, so this is making sense. So it is importing OS, and it is importing pickle, and it is importing base64. So this makes sense. The cookie that we're getting, right? We're registering our user, we're getting a cookie back, and it is base64, and it looks like it may be pickled as well. Let's take a look at the code here. Okay, here is the authentication. And right, if token, okay, if token is 401. Okay, and here is the user pickle loads base64 URL safe, base64 decode the token. Okay, but I'm not really seeing any type of sanitation or validation. So if we're not seeing any of those things, and we're pickling it, and we're importing OS as well, and it's on Flask, we can maybe potentially send something through this logic and see if we can get the flag that way. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's take a moment. How do we do this? So we're attacking the cookie, and I'm going to start crafting my payload now. So, and here we go. This is the payload. So I'm importing the requests, the pickled, the base64, and the OS. This is exactly what we were seeing in the util file. All right, so we're doing the exact same thing. We're importing pickle, base64. We're gonna pretty much use the same logic that we're trying here, but we're gonna be doing it in our Python script. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So we're importing those, and I'm putting the URL, the one that we got from Hackthebox, and I'm also going to, I've added this actually before, but this payload here is actually going to cat the flag on this IP address, and it's going to save it into the application static as the flag.txt on the server itself, so that maybe we can read it. So that's my logic. And here I've tried using the exec to see if I could do any type of RCE that way, and it just didn't end up. But it seems like using the reduce for self and coming with the OS system and the payload, it looks like this does actually in fact work when the payload is being base64 and pickled. So here is the exploit. It's being pickled and being base64 encoded and then sent as the auth cookie. So, and then once the task has been done and we've uploaded the payload, it being base64, it being pickled, and it being processed on the Python server end, what we're hoping for is it's going to save the file, because we're catting it up here. We're catting the file. We're hoping for the Python server to take that logic, save that file into a specific file that we're asking it to save to, in this case, in the static folder. And we're hoping, because the static folder, remember when we were going through the view source page code, we saw that the static folder and the images folders are there. So we know that that's an actual link that we can visit. So what I'm hoping for is the static being actually unrestricted for us to be able to view, and having the file being uploaded there, we can go ahead and just enter in the URL after we run this payload. So the task being done, it says here, time to curl it. We can curl it, we can visit the payload, but that's essentially what I've written for this Python script. So let's go take a look. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to exit out, and I'm going to Python 3 the payload, right? Payload.py, and I'm going to cross my fingers and let's see. Okay, time to curl it. Now we can completely forgot what I saved it to. Let's go ahead and see if we can go to this. So here we go, application static. All right, maybe that didn't work out. I think it's because I added that. Okay, there it goes. So there is our flag for the challenge. So awesome. That is awesome. So that worked out. So that's it for this web challenge. It was a really fun one to dive. It wasn't really any rabbit holes. It was just looking for the hints. In this case, the hint was the cookie. It was base64, and then we got back some interesting data, but you know, we knew, okay, why is there a period? Why is the username admin there? We looked at the source code because it is a white box. We were handed the files behind the server itself. We looked at those files in specific, the util. We saw the is authenticator decorator, and we saw the logic behind it. And we saw that it was being importing pickled base64 OS and requests. So we pretty much did the exact same thing. We were following the same logic that the server is being run on, and we crafted our own Python script specific for the URL, and hopefully put it into to the logic, the ability to right here to get that reverse shell. In this case, what we're doing is we're actually just catting the flag and putting it in here. And here you can see here is the payload that we're being that we're doing the RCE with. Now we could probably take it a step forward and do like a netcat reverse shell type of thing, but all we cared about for this challenge is kind of doing a proof of concept and seeing, do we have access to a file that we should not be able to have access to? In this case, the file that we weren't able to access, we made a copy of it and we put it into the actual static folder that we were able to curl or visit on the URL. So that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. See you guys in the next one.